friends, welcome to part 2 of my adventures in Yunnan, China. On my last full day in Dali, I woke up quite early to watch the sunrise by Erhai. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something about the way that the clouds sprawled over the lake made it feel like I was in an oil painting. After getting ready, I walked towards Caicun Wharf to get a taxi to the morning market in the Dali ancient city. The closest gates will be Beimen or the Chongsheng Men. There are heaps of vendors here selling fresh produce and other local specialties such as stir-fried mushroom sauce, but I was really here for breakfast. I picked up a Xizhou ɓaɓa, with Xizhou being the name of a village here in Dali and ɓaɓa being slang for bread. Heaps of stores sell this dish, but this specific store was really recommended on Xiaohongshu, and I could see why. They sell the bread freshly made, so the one that I got was piping hot. It was only 5 RMB for a piece of bread that was bigger than my head. You can choose from a sweet or savoury filling, and I got the savoury one, which came with pork and green onions. The texture is fluffy and flaky in certain parts because of the lard that they fold into the dough, and it reminded me of tongyobing, but even better. I also got a side of Baojiang豆腐, which has a really crispy outside and a custard-like centre from the store that was next door. Both of these snacks were really delicious, and I definitely recommend trying them if you get a chance. Hello, it's my second day in Dali, also my only full day in the city. I had breakfast at the morning markets and tried some snacks that were really popular in Xiaohongshu. There was a bit of a wait, but I reckon it was worth it, and now I'm at the famous 3 pagodas. The Chongsheng San Ta tourist area is located about a kilometer away from Dali ancient city. It costs 75 RMB to enter, and you can also pay for an additional shuttle bus which will take you up to Chongsheng Temple. The 3 pagodas are composed of 3 independent pagodas which form a symmetrical triangle at the base of Changshan. The middle pagoda dates back to the 9th century, and the 2 sibling pagodas were constructed in a different style about 100 years later. On the way to the temple complex, there's a bell tower which doubles as a souvenir store. The fridge magnets here were super pretty, but unfortunately I'd already hit my limit of 1 magnet per destination, so I had to pass. After passing by another hall, I finally reached the grounds of Chongsheng Temple. If you chose to take the shuttle bus at the entrance of the scenic area, this is where you'll be dropped off. There are various prayer halls here, and you can also try vegetarian temple food, but I was still really full from breakfast, so I chose to walk around the grounds which were brightened by the autumn leaves. Altogether, I spent about 2 hours exploring this area, mostly because I chose to walk to and from the temple. If you're somewhat tight on time, I recommend taking the shuttle bus one way and then walking down from the temple, because the view down towards Erhai from the temple grounds is still really nice. My next stop of the day was Xizhou. This village is about a 20-minute drive from the ancient town, and it's well known for its preserved by residences. This wooden house itself was a really popular photo spot, but I was really here to see the billowing wheat fields. The fields are usually harvested in or by late November, so I got really lucky with the timing of my visit. There are a lot of cute cafes spread around the fields, and also a mini train that you can take. For my last meal in Dali, I tried out a local specialty for breakfast called Xidoufen. It's like a thick pea soup which is often enjoyed with youtiao. The taste was really rich and nutty, and the breakfast was probably one of my favorite meals in Dali. I then experienced an absolute nightmare trying to make my way from Dali to Lijiang, which, long story short, resulted in me standing for 2 hours straight on the train. So don't be like me and make sure you get your transportation sorted out well in advance. When traveling in China, I like to use trip.com because I can book everything from train tickets to attraction tickets and various tours through it. I did make it to Lijiang eventually and set off to explore the Old Town of Lijiang, which has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1997. Unlike Dali, which is predominantly home to the Bai people, Lijiang is strongly influenced by the Nasi people and their culture. As a little fun fact, the Morsor people, which are known for having a matriarchal society and their tradition of walking marriages, is officially categorized as a subset of the Nasi ethnic group by the Chinese government. Compared to Dali Ancient City, I think I liked the winding streets and waterways of Lijiang a little bit more. There are also no ancient city walls here surrounding the Old Town. Though there is technically no ticket here, you do have to pay a maintenance fee of 50 RMB for entering the Lijiang Old Town area. I tried some yak meat buns at a local restaurant before heading off to Heilong Tan or Black Dragon Pool. These premises were constructed during the Qing dynasty and they offer a spectacular view of Yulong雪山, also known as Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. After exploring Black Dragon Pool for about an hour, I took a taxi to Baisha Old Town, which was recognized as a World Heritage Site at the same time as Lijiang Old Town. By this point, I'd lost track of how many of these old towns I'd visited on the trip, but Baisha did feel the most authentic out of all of them. There are heaps of cafes in Baisha which have rooftop seating that gives you a direct view of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain, which I think is really worth visiting. For lunch, I decided to try guoqiao mi xian, or crossing the bridge noodles. This is definitely one of the best known dishes in Yunnan cuisine, and it's served with a bowl of boiling soup and various meats and vegetables, as well as the rice noodles, which you add in last. The thing about these ancient towns is that once you've been to one or two, I feel like a lot of the things that they sell become really repetitive. I would, however, like to flag these charms that I spotted in Baisha. This is what the old town looks like, but it's dark as I was so scared, like, walking down here, but I think it's okay now. On my way down from the hotel, I was legit thinking this might have been one of, like, the stupidest decisions I've ever made when solo traveling, and then I got a throwback to the time where I was in Hongshan, and I also left the hotel when it was dark. But I think that's a little different because Hongshan is like a closed off scenic area, and I was walking really close to my hotel, so it was scary, but I didn't really think anything was going to happen to me, whereas this time, like, the old town of Lijiang is just a public area. Anyone can enter, come in, come out, etc. And I had like a 20-minute walk ahead of me to get to the pickup point. I dedicated one full day to Youtiao, or Tiger Leaping Gorge, which is situated between Lijiang and Shangri-La. The gorge is one of the deepest in the world, and it's named after the legend of a tiger who was being chased by hunters and managed to leap across the Jinshan River. As you would have seen just before, I had to wake up quite early and trek through the old town in order to get to the pickup point for the shared van that I booked. It took about 2 hours before we were dropped off at a central point where we could collect water, rent hiking poles, and also store any luggage. At this exchange point, passengers were diverted into different buses depending on where they wanted to be dropped off on the trail. I'll probably do a separate video on this later because there's just so much information to go through, so let me know if you have any specific questions about the hike. Just as a quick summary, the round trip ticket cost me 140 RMB and I started my hike at Chama Kejian, or the Tea Horse Inn. The full hike is done over 2 days, but I didn't have the time, energy, or the experience for it, so I opted for a shorter route which could be completed in a day. I don't have too much footage from my hike because it felt really unsafe to be filming / using my phone while hiking. The path is a mix of dirt and rocks and it does get quite narrow at times, so I do think there is a risk of literally just falling off if you're not careful. I did see on the news a few days ago while editing this video, so in December 2024, that a woman had fallen down to the bottom and had to be rescued, so please be careful if you're doing this hike. From the Tea Horse Inn, I hiked to Halfway Guest House, which, in addition to accommodation, has a cafe, restaurant, and also a balcony with a stunning view. We reached the Halfway Guest House a little before noon, so unfortunately it was super sunny and a little bit hard to see, but the mountain range behind me is the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain range. After Halfway Guest House, we hiked towards Zhanglao Kejian, or Teacher Zhang's guest house, which is also the pickup point for the return bus. There's some incline towards the start of this part of the trail, but after that it's practically all downhill. I came across so many mountain goats on this trail, and at certain times I definitely felt like one trying to make my descent. At Zhanglao Kejian, you can choose to hike down towards Jinshan River to what is called Zhonghuotiao, or Middle Tiger Leaping Gorge. Unfortunately, I was a little tight on time and also had a really bad stomachache, so I decided to just end my hike here and wait for the bus to pick me up, which was at 4 p.m. The hike was definitely one of my favorite experiences from my time in Yunnan. I'm not that active or fit, so starting at Tea Horse Inn was a really good alternative to completing the entire trail. I wholeheartedly recommend this hike to anyone who is looking for a more unique experience in Lijiang or Yunnan, or if you just want to get away from all of the different old towns. Unfortunately, my accommodation was located on Lion Hill inside of the old town, so I had to drag my legs up before I could end the day. For dinner, I just ate in my room and I had a stir-fried mushroom rice, which was really good. My day trip to Yulong雪山started at 5 AM in the back of a van. For some context, I really wanted to see Glacier Park, but the tickets are notoriously difficult to get. However, booking a tour can guarantee you a ticket, so I decided to join a local tour group. The guide picked us up and took us to a supposed safety briefing center where we were told about the dangers of high altitude sickness before we were sold things like oxygen cans and various Chinese herbal medicines. I got breakfast here and also picked up a pair of gloves. We then entered the Yulong Xueshan scenic area to watch the sunrise shine across the mountain in a spectacle called Rizhao Jinshan. Afterwards, we got on a bus to Lanyue-gu, or Blue Moon Valley. Along the valley, there are 4 lakes connected by small waterfalls set against the backdrop of the snow mountain. The water here is incredibly turquoise and clear, like a miniature version of Jiuzhaigou. 好吧，装得下吗？ The tour I booked then included a lunch of yak hotpot before we rushed off to join the line for Glacier Park. Glacier Park is located on the Shanzidou peak, and in order to get there, we first took a bus to the cable car station, which is at an altitude of 3,356 meters. The cable car then took us up to an altitude of 4,506 meters within 12 minutes. Because there's no time to acclimatize, it was recommended that we start using the supplementary oxygen by this point. From this point on Glacier Park, we then walked to the highest viewing platform on the mountain at an altitude of 4,680 meters. Every step felt like my legs were filled with lead and my lungs were literally burning, but I'm probably not going to be scaling any snow mountains anytime soon, so this was an incredible experience. Hi guys, I'm checking in for the last time from my accommodation here in Kunming. So yeah, that's the end of my trip to Yunnan. This time I spent around 8 days here and I got to explore Kunming, Dali and Lijiang. They're all very beautiful places, but I also know that Yunnan as a province has so much more to offer, so I'm very excited for the next opportunity where I get to come back. As usual, feel free to leave any questions or comments that you might have down below. I did find it a little difficult to plan this trip using English resources only, and I feel like if I didn't speak any Chinese, then this trip might have been a little bit difficult logistically. So if you do have any questions about any of the things that I did and how I got around, feel free to leave them down below. I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities, but otherwise I will see you guys in the next vlog.